It's time again for the Living Proof podcast with LarryC.
And hello, welcome to the Living Proof podcast. I am your host, LarryC, and today I have the pleasure of joining forces with a fellow podcast host, inspirational public speaker and passionate blogger, nominee for the I believe a couple times now, and there's much more I can say about my wonderful new friend of mine. But let me introduce you to Tonya B. of the Grit and Grace Christian Podcast. Tonya, thank you so much for being here today and giving me your time to share your story with me and others. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me on. I was so excited to be a part of what you're doing. It's been a busy day, but a productive day, so I'm doing all right.
That's good. That's good. Good to hear. Good to hear. Well, there was something I wanted to ask you before we get going. I saw, oh boy, I should have had this up on the thing. What is the learning to pay attention? I saw when I was reading about, you have a new season coming up, and something caught my eye that was interesting, where you had wrote, not a summer of pressure, but a summer of letting God restore what has been worn down. That caught my eye because this last 14 months for me that I've got sober after 32 years has been this has been like a no pressure, not worrying type thing. And also, this is the first time I've ever had like a sense of peace and like walking the beach, like I told you the other day. It's been just, that just hit me, and that was like perfect. So do you want to say a little bit about that before we get going?
Yeah. So that's what it started as my summer blog series, because I do the blog and the show, and a lot of times they complement one another. But that's basically what came to me. I won't say, God told me, or it just kind of, I felt directed that way to kind of slow down and start to, live day by day, but moment by moment, and see the value in the little things, from sitting out here, out in the outdoors, in nature, to what we see as small mundane events, to see God working in all those situations. And also, when we slow down, we can hear from Him a lot more clear. We could sense His direction more clear. He has things. The last episode was on learning how to receive from God. So we have we may not realize it, but we have a lot of issues just being still, meditating on Him without actively, constantly being the ones talking, and just waiting, and listening, and then receiving what it is He has to give us. Whether, like, say, if you haven't got clean yet, or if you are struggling, a lot of times we try to do things in our own power. But I think a lot of the parts of recovery programs says we let God do for us what we could not do for ourselves. So sometimes we have to stop working ourselves so hard, step back, and let God, do His work.
Right on, right? Yeah, right. Yes, I agree 100%. Yeah, nice, very nice. Yeah, I definitely want to check that out. That's
Yeah.
I like that. So, all right. Well, the floor is yours, and go ahead and tell us a story.
Okay. Well, again, like you said, my name is Tonya, and I'll kind of just, I guess, kind of give a brief summary. I deal with more drug use, or I dealt with more drug use than I did with alcohol. But really, I did everything that there was to do. I just wanted to change the way I felt. So whatever was around, I dabbled in that for the most part, but not really like, heavily like immersed in that lifestyle until really I was an adult, into, like, say, my 30s.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I had experience, you know, they're like, say, peer pressure, when I was in school, but,
Right.
and kind of had a small little run of social, whatever you call it, social drinking or things like that.
Right.
Now, my parents, and I will say this, I talk about them on the show. We all are close. So I don't ever, say anything bad, but it's a fact that I was raised in a home, one without a father. He wasn't there. I have a relationship with him now, but he wasn't there due to his addiction. And then my mother struggled with different things, alcohol addiction issues. So I was influenced in that way. Um, but I had a pretty good childhood growing up. Made good grades. I was involved with social extra activities,
Mhm.
cheerleading, band, all that type of thing. But I did always feel, and I hear this a lot in recovery rooms from other people, I always felt different.
Right.
I always felt, and I kind of put it on to the fact that I didn't have my real father, but my mom remarried and had other children, and I didn't look like the rest of them. They
Right.
were all like, what I'm saying? So, and then that we didn't have the same father, so I felt just like,
Well, outside a little bit.
yeah, the outsider. And I think that that's true with a lot of people and a lot of
Mhm.
addicts. Um, but so, I got into my teenage years, and like I said, peer pressure. It started. Funny thing is, everybody's got their gateway. Mine started with cigarettes. um, yeah, the kids were like smoking at school, in the recess or whatever, and so I started smoking. And then I went. We'd go out on weekends to do something, and I'd end up somewhere where they had beer, and then it went on
Mhm.
to heavier things. But nothing like nothing until like say, well, I want to say like I was in my early 30s, and I had went to I was in grad school, and I was introduced by someone close to me um, to ice, and I
Mhm.
didn't ever know what it was, and I was 30 something, like 32 maybe years old. I had
Yes.
family and everything. I was like the
Right.
soccer mom
Boy.
type one. And I'll laugh throughout my story and things. It's not as a funny subject, but some things are absurd when you look back on
Yes.
them.
Yes. Definitely.
you know,
Everything's absurd. It seems.
right? Yeah. And so, anyway, I was at my office, and she had called, and was letting me know she was on her way back from an appointment, and she had. I'll never forget this conversation because I never forget the feeling I had. She said, I have a present for you. Actually, two, one green, one white. And we all know what the green was and wasn't really
Mhm.
worried about that. But when she said the other, my stomach, I had this like sinking feeling in my gut because I had dabbled in what I thought was something else early on in my years. And I
Mhm.
knew that that was the bad road to go down. Um, but anyways, I ended up seeing what it was. It was that. And I knew nothing about it at all. Tried it though. I couldn't resist
You're gonna
trying
learn
it.
today. Yeah.
So yeah, and yeah. So and anyway, so the s- I was doing quite well in school. Um, studying for my master's, and while also doing assistant teaching. At the
Okay.
university, and things were going pretty good. I started doing that with her, and I started losing weight really fast because I had recently had triplets, so I was pretty
Oh
overweight,
boy.
and it was just dropping. And my research, oh, I was just getting so many ideas and was so inspired. At first, it always has that little. That's how it gets you. Anything. You enjoy it for a minute,
Yeah.
but yeah, and so, but it wasn't long. And another feeling I'll never forget, it wasn't long that I was getting told on by students, like a student told on me for I had nodded out in front of the class while she was teaching the main instructor, and I was sitting up front, and I nodded out. like in class. That was really embarrassing. Yeah. And then like I went to present like my thesis research at another university, and I just totally bombed. And that's when I finally just dropped out of that. So I got like all the way to the end, and I still like today, I'm like, I have an almost master's.
Yeah.
You know, what good is that? 33 credits to me now. Plus, it was just a shameful, embarrassing thing.
Right.
But, you know, my family got involved with that drug too. So not my husband, mind you. But and I'll just say this about him, and interrupt me anytime. I'll just keep talking if you have a question.
I got you.
Okay. Well, my husband, he's real straight laced. He always has been. He didn't have the same kind of family that I did. So besides him, my side of the family had started messing with that. So, it was real easy for me to just really just throw myself in it once I lost school. That was like, you know, something I was really proud of. So what I did was I began to start running off, meaning leaving my husband home with, and this is embarrassing things I'm saying here, but I'm past that. And hopefully it'll help someone. But I started running off and leaving my kids with my husband for days at a time, because when you start doing that, you stay up all night, and days start running into days, and you may have fully intended just to go get a sack and go home, but you know, for school
4 days later,
that's not what happens. And so it was bad, and you know, I deal with mental health issues too, and I know a lot of, I would say some people, I'll just maybe safely say some people in recovery circles also are just comorbid, you know, to both issues. So when I would do the drugs, though, it would exacerbate those other issues. I was that girl like that couldn't handle her stuff.
Okay.
You know,
Her. Oh boy.
If you could imagine. I was fun for a minute, but then gosh. But
deja vu over here.
So, you know, once things start getting bad and you start experiencing, you know, sometimes the situations you get into, like while you're using with other people that harm you, you go through sometimes traumatic experiences because of that. So I went and dealt with a lot of that, a lot. I was so messed up in the head. Really, I didn't know. I was just lost. Like, even though I was raised in a Christian home, I was saved. I never, you know, from an early age, went to church my whole life, but never had like a relationship where I talked to God or my Creator. Or
going through the motions, just right.
Yeah, I didn't know Him like that. So I was lost within myself, you know, as to why, you know, I felt like, what's the word, bound or like a slave to it. You know, even when everything did start turning south and I wanted to step away, it was not easy, you know. And I'll say that I tried a lot of things. I went to rehab 3 times. I did the recovery programs where you have sponsor. I do still do that, but initially it wasn't successful for me. I don't think I was ready to be brutally honest at that time. And the sponsor-sponsee relationship thing, I hadn't quite, you know, figured out how to navigate that just yet. So, but I tried that. That didn't work for me. And a couple mental hospital stays. So a total of 5 institutions. Jail. I did. I ended up like
there, time or two.
I got me a good first charge. Like, I'm in my 30s and I'm a mom, and I went to jail for first time for writing bad checks to try to get drugs. So and then I got a couple of drug charges later on. So I did, you know, jail time. But when I was in jail, that seemed to be, I guess, the catalyst to the most effective thing that eventually led to me getting, turned around was when I was in jail. I would pray to God that that He would help me with my marriage, help me to. I'm like, if you don't, I've prayed to you, Lord, to help fix me, to take me away from this or this off of me, and you haven't done it yet. So how about this? I was like, how about this? I talked to God in a real way, but I was like, how about this? How about you work on me and on my heart to help me be a better wife to my husband? Because I think the ultimate thing that I was feeling real guilty about was what I was doing to him in my addiction, right? Yeah, I was hurting myself, but I was treating him so badly because out in the streets, I was sleeping around. When I'd run off, I'd sleeping with other men. And a lot of females don't like to get on and admit that, but it happens. We do that stuff too. And so he just was very like my rock. He would take me back every time. When I got involved with the CPS case, it was because of his character and his sobriety that we were able to not lose our kids.
Right.
So I was very
thank God
blessed
for that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. By the way, I have 7 kids. So I have a lot of kids.
Yowzer.
I had no business at all. Like, really, if I was listening to this right now, I'd be like, that woman had no business at all doing those things with all those kids.
Yeah.
And no, I didn't. But,
Yeah.
and, we could say, well, why did I get up? Why was I in that mess? Was it peer pressure? Was it, my genetics? Was it, it could be anything because of my traumas. I was trying to self-medicate, whatever. The reason it happened is really, it's really, or is it a disease? But the reason is really irrelevant. What's important is how I got out, and that I found a way out. So I prayed to God, to help me with my husband. And I got out of jail and didn't see real improvement right away. But soon after that, a few months, 6 months, my husband, I told him, I was like, you got to get me out of this town that we were living in. And, it says in recovery, you got to change your people, places, and things. And that is true, I would say, in my opinion. Sometimes you can't just up and move. I understand that. But if you can get away from like that crowd,
at least some different places and people and all that. Yeah, it's all got to change, man. It's just going to be the same.
Yeah. I mean, I was just that kind of addict that if they were nearby, I don't care how bad I didn't want to, I'd try to go,
Yep.
So he found us a house where we're at now, where we live now.
Nice.
And I was dedicated. We left our kids with his parents for the remainder of the school year. There was like a few weeks left. And so they could go finish out there. In the meantime, we were here. My husband was working and we didn't have our furniture here yet, but I had a sleeping bag on the living room floor. I had my Bible and probably a TV. I don't remember. But my husband would come in the morning before work, bring me snacks, foods, check on me. And then he would come back after work before he went back to see the kids. For so many days in a row, I would just sleep this stuff off and just in the floor. And I would get my Bible out every day. And I don't know if y'all understand what it's like to come off these drugs, but you just feel like you're going to just be unalived. And,
if you don't know, don't F around and find out. Just take our word for it here. Okay.
Yeah.
It ain't no fun. Yeah.
It's no picnic. And so what comes up must come down. But yeah, so I did that. And every day I'd pick up my Bible and I only had the strength just to read like one sentence a day in Ephesians 6, where it talks about taking on the whole armor of God. I don't know why I was drawn to that. And so I would do that and pray. And it was kind of a long story, but one thing led to another. I found this church that happened to be called Full Armor. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm reading it. Full Armor Scriptures.
Isn't that something?
It's a sign. And I met a man there. I met a man there. Well, there was a prophet that came one night. And I was like, this is where I'm going to get it, set free. Because they had said so much about this man. and he walked right past me in the altar. I was like, he's going to have the key to, what's going to unlock all this. And he walked right past me. I thought, but his brother was there and he saw, and so he called me back to the office. I know, that's why. And but God knew what he was doing, because the brother called me back to the office, and it's like, I was going like so fast talking to this man. I don't remember how long I'd been off the drugs at the time, but sometimes there's still like effects.
Right.
And he's like, I know what it is. You got multiple personalities. I thought, this guy's, not only is he not a problem, but you're whack. So anyways, he said, you need a counselor. I was like, wow, this is beyond God. I have to see a counselor. But the lady was like, I know one. And she grabbed my hand and introduced me to this guy in the church, that was there for church. And he's like, seemed like a real simple man, and a man that had never been through what I had been through. So I wasn't real confident because, it says in one book, in a book, the therapeutic value of one addict helping another is without parallel. It's something about us being able to connect, to know that and you understand how difficult it was,
right.
or why we do things we do.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so I gave it a shot. So he was a Christian counselor. So he walked me through these steps of, like, it's kind of like doing your fourth step or working, the 12 steps and then a fourth step with someone, but in a, church environment. But it's not celebrate. Well, it's not that kind of program.
Yeah, right. Yeah. There's quite a few out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yep. So
we did that for like a year, once a week, forgave and all this stuff. And a little bit at a time, I would see improvements of things. Tried to relapse once, but he was able to kind of like get me back. I learned how to, I always knew you're supposed to play the tape, but I actually did it and went home instead. Just started seeing little improvements. So like after that year was up, I was sober. I had the first job I had outside my home in a long time. Of course, I was raising kids, but I had a job. I wanted to be able to pay my probation payments myself without having my husband pay them, because he didn't do that. Right. So I got a job. I was sober, and it was.
And that right there is like right there is progress. Like you just wanting to pay your own stuff. It's like, hey, that's progress right there.
I had a real sense inside me to want to make everything right. And I think that we learned that too in the rooms, is that kind of like making amends, trying to set right the wrongs that we've done if we can. And that feels good to do.
Been wronging people out there for so long. It's like it feels good to actually do some good and build somebody up. And so it really does. It's crazy how that works, ain't it?
Yeah. We keep what we have by giving it away. But yeah. And then eventually, a few years down the way, that man and another gentleman or brother from that same church, we had all ended up going separate ways church-wise, but we still kept in contact. And those two men decided to start their own online radio station. And they had asked, one of the other guys said that he thought I would be good at it, and asked if I wanted to come on. And I was like, I don't know. I've never been on any kind of thing like that. I'm shy and everything. But I wanted to be able to tell my story. Or, I didn't even know if it was tell my story, but I wanted to help people like us.
Right.
I had a strong urge to do that. And so I prayed about it.
Possible.
Yeah. And, and I know we help at the, sometimes if people that go to meetings, we help at meetings, share or chair, and stuff. But so I prayed about it, and I felt like that it was a real good opportunity for me to do that on a little bit bigger of a platform. And so like the first few episodes I had were about, I had guests on, I grabbed friends I knew, that had been out in the life, we were in the streets together, and I knew that they had gotten, well. And so I asked them to come on, and and they did. And it was like a live show too. And I don't know how I did that. I was like, but eventually, it led to what I do. Here, I went from a radio show to making it a podcast so that people that missed the live show could see it, and it just turned into what it is today. And
Nice.
and then, I use it to I tell my story here and there. I've had one episode where it's just telling all my story so that it would make sense to everybody instead of the bits and pieces. But mostly I bring on other people that have stories like ours,
Right.
that
Right.
can help someone. That's the sole
Nice.
reason why I do the show is to, I've been on 3 years. I'm not monetized at all.
Right.
It'd be cool to be so I could pay for my equipment. And it's not like I don't try here and there, but my
Right.
sole purpose is to help some people,
Yep.
or at least do my part to do it. Like God has to bring the harvest, but to do my part.
That's right. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. 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 I was just telling who's that? Well, I've told probably everybody that I've talked to. That was the whole reason for this podcast. Actually, I think I'm going to be recording one at the beginning of next week. But I wanted to do this podcast. Like if I tell my story, you may not be able to relate to it. This person may not. One person may use this step program. One person may use a church-based program. And I was thinking about that, and I myself, I take everything from all of them because more power, man.
Yep.
But some people, some people don't believe in a God. They got a higher power or whatever, and
Right.
so I want all the stories out there, all right there. So when somebody hears one, they'd be like, "Oh, I can't relate to this guy, but this one." And it'll be like, "Hey, well, I was there once. Well, if this idiot can do it, I sure as heck can. So let me give it a shot." And that, that's like the same exact thing what I'm here for. It just spent 32 years out there drunk in drugs and just tearing people down, tearing myself down. That however much time I've got, I want to help people get these stories out there and just build people up. And that's where we're here.
Yeah.
So
As long as you keep that your focus, I think you would be able to do that. I think you're doing a great job. Excited for you.
Thank you. Yeah. Here we are, third episode. Yeah, big time. Yeah, it's great. It's great. But go ahead.
That's pretty much, I don't know. I've had I had dips in the road, but I think another thing that changed things for me that I think would be crucial is learning who I was. I said earlier I had felt lost. Who am I? Who am I in relation to God or my Creator and Him to me? Because I think a lot of us deal with shame, or like you were saying, we were doing things to other people and harming other people, harming ourselves. I was really into harming myself. I think I went so far with it and allowed myself to be, end up in such, dangerous situations. It's because I didn't care about myself. Things that happened to me and plus things I had done, I felt so much shame that I didn't feel. And it sounds cheesy. I don't like to sound weak, but this statement makes me feel weak. But I felt unworthy of God's love, right? I felt unworthy of anybody's love, and so why not just do all this stuff and let all these people do all this stuff to me? As long as I can numb it out, then and that's I think the key is a lot of it is in your mind, and when you can get a realization of who you are, then like in some recovery rooms they'll have that slogan, "To thine own self be true." I always wonder why they had that on there until I realized, okay, now wait a minute, I understand now that I'm like you. I welcome all faith or not faith, but I'm share just kind of my perspective. So I do have Christian faith, but I'm like, okay, I'm a child of God and made in His image, and my salvation and righteousness and my goodness is no longer based upon myself, what I do, don't do. My performance is
Mhm.
based on Christ's sacrifice for me. And so my identity is completely wrapped up in that. So all this shame and all these other lies I hear in my head about myself, those are lies from the enemy who comes to
Mhm.
steal, kill, and destroy my life. But
Right.
Jesus came that I may have life and have it more abundantly. So I lean into that. And so now that I see that statement, to thine own self be true, if I'm coming into a situation where, or someone calls and I'm tempted or put in a spot like that, I can be, wait a minute, if I do this, this would not be true to my nature. That if I
Mhm.
behave in that way or partake in that, that's not true to who I am.
Mhm.
I would be betraying. I finally understood I would be betraying my own self. You see what I'm saying? That's
Right.
kind of how I got
Right.
out of
Yeah.
that
Yep.
relapse trap.
Yep.
What I call the relapse
Yeah.
trap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the truth,
Call a spade,
yeah,
man.
yeah, the truth will set you free. And so I
Yep.
needed to know the truth about me, and that I
Right.
could stand with my head high and know that I was worthy of God's love, of my family's love,
Mhm.
and I was worth taking care of myself and
Right.
putting my recovery uh, first, and the most important priority.
Right. I think that's like a major part. Like when I was out there, I didn't care. I didn't care anything about myself, and I didn't care anything about other people except certain people. Certain people, I would go out of my way. I would do anything for them. Greatest guy in the world, that Larry guy. And I say, what are you talking about? That guy? He's what? You know. But and the whole thing of like finding yourself. I was talking to my mother the other day, and we were just going down through, and I was telling her, I'm like, I've got 30, I'm 48. I've got 32 years in addiction, of heavy addiction. I started before I was 18, but as soon as I was 18, I left home, and that was it. It all went downhill from there. But being raised, mom would drag me to church, and 2 days later, I'd be at the bar all night with dad. So, growing up, all I ever knew was go to church, and I could sit there and listen to the guy talk forever and fall asleep into some songs, or I can go down here to these neon lights in the jukebox, and man, dad's giving me quarters. I get three songs for a quarter. Oh man, yeah,
Yeah.
everything is great, and you know, and I went all my life up through that. And then when I hit 18, it was just totally bars. So now here I am. I'm 48, and all I know, drinking, drugs, alcohol, lying, cheating, this and that. Like this last 14 months, like the walks on the beach are like, that is the most peaceful thing in the world to me. And up until 14 months ago, I hated the beach. I despised the beach. You couldn't catch me near the beach unless it was a little tiki hut, getting some drinks.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and it's just that finding yourself thing. Like I never really knew who I was. I was always just trying to be like my father, or trying to do drugs and alcohol. And I'm gonna tell you what, man, if you can, like you said, free your mind and your butt will follow. And like finding yourself is just so crazy. There's things that I've been doing these last 14 months that I was like, it's just amazing. And to go from like where your mindset is, where you're on that, where you're like, I left my kids are home. I'd leave my children, children's mother home, and I was going out to the bars and stuff. It was just, and looking back, it's like you don't realize when you're using, but your mind is just off somewhere else. And you can tell people, you're like, you're really not thinking right, you're not rational, you're not doing right things. But when you clean up and you look back at yourself, you're like, man, I was not rational. Like, what was going on? like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's crazy going from all of that to where we're at now. Because I'm gonna tell you what, man, I wouldn't trade waking up with no hangovers, feeling like I got to watch my back, this and that. Just the peace and relaxation that I have now, I have never known in my life. It's like I'm still learning what to do with these feelings because they're so new.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like, hey, this sobriety thing, I think I'm gonna stick with it for a little bit, because this right here is like, this here is great. I love it, and it's wonderful. Uh, you know,
Yeah. It's like
uh,
a God high.
yeah, yeah. It's like,
Or
yeah,
something. Yeah. I mean, when you describe your walks on the beach, that reminds me of like when, it's like when you first, get saved or get clean and you, everything looks new. Like to me, the grass looked greener than it ever had before.
Yeah,
Or,
you're
you
seeing
know,
stuff with like new eyes or something.
yeah, yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah, that is a real, yeah, that's a real thing.
Hmm.
And how long have you been sober now?
Since November of 2023, November
All
9th.
right.
Yeah.
Nice, very
Yeah.
nice. Good deal. Good deal. Um,
I
oh
was a
yeah,
chronic relapser for quite some time.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
I had to
would I
get
would
it.
try and straighten up a little bit. Maybe like if I went to jail and got in trouble, oh man, I'll be good. And that lasted a week, 2 weeks, and you just back out there doing it. You know, I never. It works if you work it. I found out. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
eventually now, you got to put a little bit of
Yeah.
work in if you want something out of it. You're not just gonna sit back and chill, and it's just gonna somebody's gonna hop on your back, and yeah,
Right.
it
Yep.
is it's a lot of work.
But it's worth it.
It is,
Definitely
yeah.
worth
Amen
it.
to that. Amen to that.
And we're worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. Believe it or not, yeah. Yeah, sure are. Uh, All right. Well, is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap it up? To
um,
anybody out there, anything?
yeah. I mean, I was thinking we had spoken before, and you had talked about maybe like the question of what would I say to people if they were listening and going through,
All right, like yeah, the
struggling.
younger generation or something, maybe just
Yeah.
starting to dabble out there, right?
Yeah. I was thinking about that and kind of meditating on that, what I would say. And, well, for one, just kind of before I forget what we were just talking about, the chronic relapsing, if you are, if you had tried recovery and sobriety, but you've messed up or relapsed, I don't know if say messed up, but
Mhm.
you've relapsed or
All right.
you're struggling. Um, don't get discouraged because I'm proof that I don't know how many times I had kept messing up. You'll get there. I know I went to rehab with one girl. She said she had been there. That was her 8th trip there. And I thought that really discouraged me. It was my first one. I
Yeah,
thought,
yeah.
what? But I
Eighth
mean,
time
some
might be a
people,
charm, man. You never know. You
yeah.
know?
But like, it's like you were saying, don't lose heart because it's different for everybody because it's according to a lot of factors, and one of them is what you're willing to put into it. So you have to be willing to be completely fed up and give it your all, you know, and with the help of your hard work, and whether it's God, your higher power, or um, just to rely on something higher than yourself to
Mhm.
help you. You will succeed. And then to the ones who have not, or perhaps would be just dabbling, don't be deceived. So don't be discouraged on one side, but don't be deceived if you're just starting because, if you're not a Christian, I don't know how else to really put this, but um, the way I would say it is there's an enemy out there that's you can't see that's wanting you to trip up. And he will make you believe that whatever it is you're thinking you're trying, alcohol, drugs, whatever, are going to be this wonderful time. But like we discussed earlier, that's a lie. That's a trick.
All
Um,
right. Yeah, you
it's
have
it's
that
it,
little first little season. It's fun for a season, and after that, it's done.
Yeah, and not only that, that first little season that was fun can also have huge consequences. Um, if you've worked hard your whole life for a good reputation at your job or at your school, you could lose
Yeah.
that really fast, a lot
Yeah.
faster than you think. It ends up biting you a lot harder than you think it would. And you should have a healthy fear of it. And I thought when I say that to him, I'm going to sound like a 50-year-old woman. And I'm like, well, you are a 50-year-old woman. And
Here
it's
we
just
are.
right. It's
Yeah.
just true.
Yeah.
It's just true though. I mean, that's what I know. And that's per my experience. It's a lot, you're going to get a lot more than you bargained for. And just, try to surround yourself with people, a community, whether it be church, a knitting club, I don't know, a recovery
Yeah.
room, whatever. that
Anything.
you can kind of lean on, for support. It's really
Yeah.
vital. That whole picking up the phone and calling people. That's a game changer right there. Don't
Yeah.
don't let the phone be too heavy.
Yeah,
So that's
the
kind of
reaching that
what I was.
the reaching
Yeah.
out for help type thing is a major thing because that's one thing I would never do. I'd have a bunch of phone number right there. Just give us a call, man. We'll do something, and I just never would. I don't know if it was my pride or, I just didn't want to not go out and use again. And it could have been all the above.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd use that. I'd use their phone numbers to light my joint or something. It's like that's just how. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We're a
Yep.
mess.
But
Thank God I don't have to deal
yeah.
with that anymore. Man.
hmm But it is really helpful. I mean, that's why I didn't want to call, because I'm afraid they'd keep me from doing what I was going to do.
Yeah,
And they will. So that's the thing. That's the
yeah,
reason why you should call.
yeah. I guess yeah. Yeah, I
And they
didn't
don't
think
really
about
tell
that
you
one.
what to do. They don't order you around, but they give you good, solid, experiential advice. And I advise that, that we should listen to. It would be to our benefit. So, yeah.
Yeah, some good suggestions that worked for them. So I mean, you
Yeah.
can try that and see if it works for you. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Right on. Right on. All right. Well, I believe we're going to I'll try and publish this on YouTube and my platforms this Friday. Should be 7:10 in the AM. And we'll go ahead and you'll be able to share from there. And we'll release this third magic trick to the world and
I like
let
how
it
I
be out
saw how you
there.
put that. Yeah. For the next magic trick.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah. I
that.
was like, oops. Yeah.
Well,
Good
I will get
stuff.
on. I will get on my my TikTok and my all my channels, and tonight
Mhm.
start hollering it out for Friday.
Right on.
Thanks so much for
Right
having
on.
me on and
Hey,
everything.
thank
And
you. Thank
yeah,
you.
I've
Yeah,
enjoyed it.
we got each other's contact info and we'll stay in touch. And
Yeah.
I'll definitely be checking out your podcast because that sounds really interesting. And I can't
Y-
wait to check that out.
Yeah, and come on, we can arrange that too as well. So
Right
if you'd
on.
like to come,
For
yeah.
sure. For
All right.
sure. Yeah.
All right.
We'll make it happen. All
Okay,
right.
great.
Thank you. Thank you
Have a
so
good day.
much.
You're
All
welcome.
right. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
The time has come to say goodbye. Stay sober. Be well. And until next time.